Welcome to a new episode of The Mystical Journey. Today we have a special guest, Adela Lavine. She's a psychic, a medium, and author. Peering into the narrow room, I mean, here it appears backwards, but we'll put the name underneath. So we met my friend Susie, our friend, because she's your friend too, took a seance that you were leading and was really I mean, we've been to several and you came to one too, right? And so I'm sure we'll talk about that in the conversation. But first, I wanted you to introduce yourself and tell us what brought you to this spiritual journey that is yours.
I'm Adela Lavine. I'm an intuitive and a medium. Let's see, I've been reading professionally and teaching for 18 years now. Going on 18 years. What brought me was a lot of resistance. I did not want to go down this path. I ran from it several times. It's not something I chose. I dreamed of having a great singing voice. The universe did not give me that, but I do appreciate others. I literally was in my room trying to conjure that as a kid. But I saw things all the time when I was little. My mother died when I was 10 days old, and my aunt and uncle raised me. And I used to have dreams of my aunt passing. They're the only people I see those things because it affects my future. I don't see that for people unless they're dying. I won't, that's kind of trying to play, a role I shouldn't play. But I did have these dreams over and over. And then my aunt got sick when I was 16. And pretty much what I saw came true. The reason why that's significant is because my uncle was a dialysis patient for 30 years. He was one of the first dialysis patients in the world. And technically, he should have been the one I should have been worried about. So psychologically, I kind of thought I was having those dreams because my mother died so young. Maybe I had this fear about my aunt. I come from a very intellectual family, so I intellectualized everything at that time. When my aunt was dying, I kind of opened up to seeing things I didn't see before, which was her spirit was separate from her body. I just started to see that she was still her, but her body was dying. So that kind of led me on this path. And then around 21, I started to play with it and try to see what I would see about people. And it did work too well that I shut it all down. You can't really shut it all down, but I definitely tried to ignore it as much as I could. I did get a little deeper into it. I had met a boyfriend at the time whose mom knew mediums and psychics, and I never knew anybody who talked about those things. So I've had several different things that led me. And in my 30s, I just couldn't, nothing was clicking. I tried everything. I tried to run across the world, run across the country, try different things for work. And no matter how hard I tried, nothing clicked. And one day I said, well, I'm going to give into this. So I kind of had my own little ritual of laying down and saying, what do you guys want me to do? Because I can't really fight this any longer. And everything I've learned since then has been from that realm. I haven't taken classes or read books on it. I was even apprehensive to put a book out because I was like always telling people, follow your intuition, follow yourself. But, people like a little bit of information I started to find, which is totally understandable. I just always wanted to make it clear, this is what I've come to understand, but you definitely have to find your own path.
You definitely say that in your book and you repeat it. And what I like is that you have a very gentle approach. You're not trying to hammer something down in someone's mind.
Yes, I wanted, that
Your
was
voice
important
is
to me.
gentle. Yeah. I want to say, even your voice is really soothing. You know, you might not be the singer but it's very soothing listening to you. So,
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it was I, I was wanted to put myself, I had this idea that I knew there was something like about my life that was going to do something, but I just couldn't figure it out for the longest time. I grew up in a very religious environment. It wasn't exactly cohesive to, hey, I see people in my room all the time. I was told, no, you don't, you're fine, and was kind of terrified all the time. And when I saw The Sixth Sense, I kind of cried because that was like me. I was that,
yeah.
like even the bathroom scene when he's trying to go to the bathroom, that was me. I was like always freaking out about, because I saw things in paintings, I saw things in mirrors, um and I saw, and people, I would hear them and see them coming at me telepathically, obviously, for me. Um, and it's one of those things I always tell people, it's a way of life. It isn't something you go, I think I'll do this, at least that's how I see it. A lot of people I know like me kind of have that same story, that it's just something they had to give into.
Yeah, and it's
It's
interesting that in your book you say that you thought everyone was like that everyone was seeing other things, and then you come to notice that it's not the case. And I wonder if is it because you have an opening to it too, that maybe others don't let that happen.
Yeah, for the longest time, it seems like obvious, right? My mom died when I was 10 days old, and it would seem like obvious, like, well, maybe that kept the opening. I didn't even think of that till way late in life. I was like, oh, maybe that's it. I do think that might be a part of it. Um, but the interesting thing is, I've always tried to figure out is that I ran from it so much that I didn't shut it down though. Even when I was a kid, I just stopped telling people. So you would think I would have been like, well, because this is what we do to kids a lot, like, oh, you're not seeing anything, you know? And for some reason, I don't know, I liked it. I think I liked it. I saw this other world all the time. I used to call it, like, I just thought it was like a make believe world or another world. And I just didn't want to give that up. So
Mm.
I think I just kept it quiet and just didn't talk about it anymore.
Yeah. Were you ever scared as a child? I must imagine sometimes it's scary, and then it must feel lonely, because if you can't talk about it to others, I must imagine the childhood would be, you have your own world and you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
How did that go for you? You were just you just never talked about it and you dealt with it on your own. Was that?
hmm
Mm,
Yeah. I was scared all the time,
yeah.
like unreasonably scared, in the sense that I used to say things like, I'm not afraid of monsters, like
Yeah.
monsters didn't, but people scared me.
Yeah.
I was afraid of people in this world. Like I was very sensitive to how people felt. When I was little, I used to go to bed thinking about pain in the world and people who are suffering. I just never had that childhood thing where you're like, hey, everything's cool. And what? The world's like, what? I never know that feeling. So that was the intuitive part of me. I could feel things about people. My aunt, who I called my mother, used to ask me questions about people. That was the only slight hint I had, because she used to say, oh, she's so intuitive, but no one explained it. That she would ask me adult questions. What do you see about this person? And I would just say, well, this is why they're this and this is why they're that. And she, oh, she's so intuitive, but no, I didn't know what she was talking about. Just thought that's what it must have been, something like psychological or something. And yeah, I was scared all the time. I used to go to my room like I was like against the wall, and I would flick on the lights and I would like scan the wall like I was in a cop or something. And I kept my light on for many years, and even to this day I need a little light.
Mm. Yeah. And how can you make I mean, if especially when you were a kid, how do you make the difference between what was, like what was tangible, like in this world, and what was coming from, the other world, or however you want to call it?
That's a really good question. I don't think I could at the time, meaning like I think the medium side and the intuitive side were definitely mixed up. Like what I felt from people and how I saw adults and their true self was mixed up with the spirit world. Now, I was raised religious, so pretty much every night I thought I was going to get possessed. I was
Yeah.
obsessed with possession
Yeah.
and terrified of it. And of course, the one time I was raised Seventh Day Adventist, which means they believe in Friday night to Saturday night is the Sabbath, and they believe in Jesus and everything. But when you're not allowed to watch TV or anything, and back then it was cable TV, as we all remember. There's only I don't even think it was cable. I think it was like no, like scratch that. It wasn't cable. It was like 11 channels, and I flipped. I was watching the religious channel. If everybody remembers that, it was kind of like that religious channel because that's all I was allowed to watch. And I was very obedient, but I flipped to the regular TV, and guess what was on? Of course, was The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And I freaked out. I was like, "That's it. I'm gonna get." But then I was like drawn to like it, so I kept flipping back and forth, and I was very scared of that. So kind of trying to tell the difference. I didn't know what was going on. I really didn't. I know that I was pretty grounded because I had a family that was pretty grounded in that way, but I was also pretty floaty, at that time. Grounding has something I've learned to do over years and years and years, which is a good thing. But yeah, that's probably a good question. There were times where the lines were definitely blurred.
Yeah, but that's interesting because I mean, I know The Exorcist for me is also the movie I was scared. I mean, like I would run to my parents' room because I felt that I was being followed or whatever. But um, what do you make of this now that you have more of an understanding? Is possession something that happens in your mind? I mean, is it something?
Very, very rare. I have seen it in the 18 years. Um, it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
Putting it mildly. But there is a particular time. I don't know if you want me to tell that story,
Oh, sure.
but I had been reading for about 10 years. And this person came in to the place I was reading, and I don't know why they decided, yeah, just send this person up because he came in dragging one. It was like a scene out of a movie, dragging one foot, paralyzed on one side, drooling, and just sent him up for a reading. That should be okay. When I met him, because you're supposed to meet your client and then take them up at where I was at, I immediately was like, I don't understand why they just let this happen. I did bring him to my office, and I used to always put numerous protections and energies in my space all the time. I work with Saint Michael as a protector. And as soon as he sat down and closed the door, I literally was staring at the doorknob going, how fast can I get to that door? Now, it wasn't a human thing, which we, especially women, have experienced that. It was not that. It was something else that made me feel this way. And he literally just dropped his head and his eyes rolled up like that. And he said, I said, there's something in you. And he said, yeah, because he specifically wanted a medium. He asked for a medium. And he said, yeah, I know. Can you get it out? And I was like, okay, this is not like at that time, I just wanted all the light and the niceness of things, but I'm talking to the spirit world. And I was like, that's for other people, not for me. And I could hear it and see it. And it was like daring me to try. And I knew I wasn't experienced enough for that at the time. It disturbed me so much for like a week it disturbed the whole place so much. And this was a very well-versed place, as you guys, because you've seen the place, of witches, and they were thrown. We're talking like veteran people. And they put him in the room with me. But I did start to talk to him about why I saw this happen. I started talking what I saw when he was a little boy. And I did feel like there was a lot of dark abuse, pretty severe. And he actually talked to me about it and how they were into certain things. And, but he would get angry and said, I don't want to talk about that. Are you just going to get it out? But the thing about those things is if someone doesn't want that out, if you don't go to the source of the pain, you can't do it for the person. Like, he didn't want to address where this might have began. He just wanted me to do it for him. I brought him to somebody who fancied themselves as a shaman. Wasn't that he thought he could do it. But what was interesting is he said the guy wouldn't talk to him at all. Now, the other thing that was interesting is at one point I heard, you got to stop this and you got to get out. And I did. And I heard this thing say, I dare you to try to get me out of him. It definitely had a hold. I definitely would call that a possession.
Mm-hmm.
He knew it. I knew it. We all knew it. You could feel it. If you didn't know anything about this, you would know something. This isn't just someone sick or something. It was beyond. Now, what I did learn was that realm said, if you're going to be in this realm, you need to learn all of us.
Wow.
So you better warrior up. Like, you can't just roam around our neighborhood and only go to Beverly Hills. You better learn all of the neighborhood. And by the way, they don't even like that comparison. Like, we're just as good as Beverly Hills. We're just doing something different. So it was very strange because I did know I was supposed to be respectful about it, not aggressive. And I think what people don't know about those kind of energies, if you're aggressive and you treat them like they're not powerful and they don't have a place in that world, that's where is a mistake. And that was my first lesson of, if you're going to be a medium and you're going to roam around in the spirit world, you better learn everything about it. It definitely felt like I got, put in my place of learning.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're always learning? Because it's probably you encounter always newer thing, or I don't want to call them things, but newer experiences or newer do you feel, when you say you learn, do you, just like you talked in the beginning of this conversation where you said you kind of learn on your own how to connect, how to deal with situations, did you research, do you do other research of other kind of mediums, or how they do things, or you just properly look within and see, okay, what's the best solution, how do I address this situation, how is that more inner kind of work, or are you looking outside also at other people's methods? I don't know if it's a method is the right term, but
no, I don't look at other people's methods, and I don't learn inner. I'm learning from that realm for all this time and always. So it's always learning. There's always, every reading I do, the spirit world will teach me. Even the spirits will teach me something. What I call master teachers, which are not guides, they're not what people see as, they're ancient, been around in that world for a long time. And those have been different teachers I've had. They, a long time ago, said, because mankind, I should say, have ego, that we don't want you to learn from that. That's where I got the follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice. It's from that realm. They say, if you're going to follow, if you listen to other people, and that's why I was very careful, if I'm going to teach and explain things, to say, this is what I've learned so far. Do what works for you, because they're very big on, if I was very easily at that time could have just followed someone and they were like, no, And I learned quickly that people who were interested in this ability kind of wanted to take me under their wing and use it for them. And
Yeah.
that was the other thing, is your ego gets lost, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, the purity of it gets lost. The other reason is so that I could trust it. So it's not that I haven't been like, oh, wow, someone told me about something I've been seeing. And then they said, oh, that's called this. And I go, I had no idea that was called that. That's a confirmation for me. That's great. But I did get it originally from that realm.
Mhm.
And yes, I'm always, always learning. It's a lifetime for sure. I'm only seeing a small viewpoint.
That's interesting.
And I imagine that now, I mean, even though you don't get confirmation from them, but having friends, or more people that do similar, that are also psychics or mediums, and it must still be helpful in a way, from different than from when you were a kid and didn't have anyone really to relate to.
Well, how do I say it?
Yeah, no, it's the same.
You want to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, I
It's,
understand. Yeah.
it's very competitive, to be honest, for people to know. Unfortunately, there's a lot of competition and a lot of ego. So I don't really have a ton of friends in that world. I know a lot of people,
Yeah.
and we can converse on things, and that's pretty awesome for sure.
Yeah.
When I've read in locations, we're like sitting around getting lunch and we're having not the normal work conversation, like, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? And things like this. But you do kind of learn to keep what you do to yourself somewhat, because there is a lot of competition, sadly. So it is a very lonely path if you're trying to do it ethically and for the right reasons. It's not always popular. Like if you're not in agreement with another person, some people are really cool about it and they're like, yeah, that's your thing, that's not my thing, which is great.
Yeah.
But I found that people who are similar to me also keep to themselves. So it is a lonely existence. I do have, a couple of people that we can agree to disagree, and we're good with that. Or we just kind of approach it differently. So we're not really disagreeing, we just have a different approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of good, obviously, that you meet people that aren't like, what, you're weird or something like that. And they're just like, oh yeah, you talk to this person or whatever. You talk spirits, okay, whatever, pass the catch up, it's not like a big deal. That's nice. But it doesn't last too long.
Yeah, because you have an interesting view on reincarnation that's not the typical
popular
view.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say popular, but I mean, because people assume that you're just coming back to this realm, when in your knowledge, this is not what happens. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, I did venture it. Don't think I didn't. I always believe in, like, I'm going to check it out. And if it doesn't resonate with me and, isn't vibrating right with me, then it just doesn't, and it doesn't mean there aren't times where, like, maybe I'm going to one day think I'm wrong, because I think we're always shifting and growing and coming to an understanding. Sorry, I feel like I had something here. Because when I deal with the spirit world, I've never had anybody, and I've talked to people who have died 100 years ago or things like that. No one's ever been like, well, they're gone. I've never had that experience, for one. For two, it was shown to me that because we evolve and we grow and we die. When you die, you still evolve and you grow, and you have a chance to grow and evolve. And there's many dimensions and realms that I know a very small about. I believe that I can't ever say to someone, this is how many, this is what it is, because that would be kind of, to me, a ridiculous thing to say, because I don't know for sure. I only know as I'm understanding, I get more information. So what it's been shown to me is that, because when you die, let's say you're a new soul and I pass, and I'm like, hey, you want to take a look at my life? And you're like, sure, I can take you through my whole life. And it's almost like a VR experience. It's like you've lived it. You can feel everything I felt. You can see everything I see, because that's how I read. When I talk to people who have died, and I've talked to people several times, I sometimes forget I never met them in life. So some people want me to talk to someone, like check in maybe every 6 months or whatever, and they'll take me to where they grew up. I can describe it. I remote view so I can see the house. I can see what it looked like. I can see their family. And it's so real after a while that it's like I lived it. And that's in this world. So when you're in that world, you can 100% feel times a million what I'm feeling, like you've lived it. So now let's say you're born and you meet my family, it feels like very familiar. Even the area could feel very familiar. And so because I've seen it so strongly that way, it just doesn't resonate with me that one, we need to come back here. And because you can learn in that realm. And this is like, to me, boot camp. Like I always see it like a camp. Like we all kids say, let's go to that camp. You're going to cook. You're going to do this. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to do this. We all have a role, kind of like, what's that? Why is Burning Man or something? It's like going to be like that. Everyone's going to have a role. Not that I've been to Burning Man, but that's what I picture. And we all going to play a role here, but it's a very, like, to me, even when I was a kid, I saw this place as very barbaric. I was like, bodies are weird. You have to eat. You have to do all these body things. You can't just think something and it appears. You can't just think something and someone understands you. It just seemed unfamiliar. And it doesn't match with people thinking I was like an old soul or anything. This place didn't seem familiar to me. So it's not just because of me, it's just because of what that realm has shown me, how I'm able to see so much of people's lives like I've lived it, or like I've known them and I never met them in life, in this life. So that's just what resonates for me.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I want to also talk about the seances, because I think it's fascinating, because not only is it fascinating when you connect to someone who, you know, is familiar to us, who died, but also hearing other people's stories. I mean, I remember, and also getting confirmation on stuff. I remember when I was there once, I don't know if it was the time that you were here, but you saw someone who, you know, passed from an impact. And, you know, I think there was debate if it was a suicide or a murder, or, you know, I mean, and it's just, you can really get to the bottom of things.
Yeah, what you're talking about is the medium gallery, I think, which is different than the seances that I do, but
Okay.
somewhat similar. But yeah, I know what you're doing. Medium gallery is when I read everybody in the room,
Okay.
right?
That's
Yeah,
what I went
yeah,
to.
yeah. That's the galleries that I do. Yeah, I get, I read today and both of them were medium readings. It's not always that way. It even every time surprises me. I say something to someone, I said something today, like he's holding a guitar and then they're smiling because they were a guitar person. They said something the other day, someone said something, they're like, oh my God, I have that t-shirt. Like I'm always, because you have to 100% trust the spirits. And that's the thing, is that's why I take it so seriously, because I'm just mediating what they're telling me. The difficult part is when it comes to what you're describing, is not all the time do you get the confirmation in that moment, but I get it usually in emails. People will find things out. And what I've learned is the spirit world's not going to tell me something they don't think someone can get confirmed. And yeah, it's pretty detailed. I'm really into the details, because that's how you're going to feel like you're actually talking to your friend or to or your loved one. If I'm not getting it in their tone, their way they would talk, their mannerisms, how they would be, who they are, you're not going to really feel like it's them.
Mm-hmm. How do you, I mean, is it the spirits who guide you toward which person to start with? And do you usually always get to everyone in the room when you do that, or not necessarily?
Oh, yeah. In a medium gallery, I read every single person in the room. If
Okay.
you're there, you get a reading. In a seance, I'm trying to get people to feel the energy. In other words, I just go doors wide open, everyone's game. In a medium gallery, I ask you who you would like to speak to. Same with my private readings. You can tell me anyone you want to speak to, not by name, just by relationship. So if you say, I want to speak to my grandmother on my mother's side, that's who I'm going to speak to. I kind of do the whatever I feel, but it doesn't end up that way because it could be 20 people or 15 people. Then after a while, I'm like, listen, I'm just going to go in order at this point. But I do kind of start off with a little bit of that because sometimes that room needs to hear that reading.
Have you ever encountered a spirit or that doesn't want to come through, that doesn't want to, like let's say this person wants to talk to a grandparent, but the grandparent does not want to come through? Have you ever encountered something like that?
Never. They all want to talk. They all want to talk. They all want to talk, and they're not the same person. Sometimes they're like, I'm going to talk to you, but I'm still pissed about this.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it. Just give me a minute. Like I've only been here, or I just didn't want to ever talk about it. But now that me and you are talking, it's helping me heal a little bit. So maybe I'll get better at it. They always want to speak their mind. That's why you have to pick one, because otherwise it's like that. So that's the only way I can control the spirit world. They're not reverent like higher beings. They're just people who died. So it's like walking in the middle of Disneyland going, hey guys, I have thousands of dollars, and they're just like that. Yeah. So yeah, they all want to talk. No one's ever not want to talk. But have people been surprised that someone's like, yeah, I'm pissed off. But sometimes they're doing it because they want to show who they were. And they say, listen, but I am getting better. But if they came in all warm and fuzzy and you're like, that person didn't seem like that kind of person that I knew, it would confuse you. But yeah, no, they all want to talk. No, I've never had that.
In the opposite way, have you ever been inclined to talk to somebody, even if you're walking in the street or going to a store or whatever, and there's, because this happened to me where somebody had like, I gotta talk to you, have you ever had that experience where you felt compelled to talk to somebody you saw in this real world because some of their like loved ones or somebody wants to give them a message because they're in a situation, maybe a critical situation or something like that? Have you ever had those kind of experiences?
Way back in the day, but I nixed that. I don't do that anymore because I need to live my life. Yeah. I was like, yeah. I used to be that way. I kind of look at that as a rookie thing I did back in the day, because I was excited, right? I was like, oh, everybody wants to. Well, I learned very hard lessons that no, not everybody wants to listen to what you have to say. And that realm kind of got on me by my teachers saying, like, people need to they need to ask you. You need to get permission. You can't. But the funny thing is, I do have a client that I still have to this day that probably was over maybe 10 years ago. I was on a plane and that did happen. And she didn't contact me for years, like till like 3 years ago. And she was like, remember me from the plane? And I was all like, who is this person? She was texting. I was like, how did you get my number? And she's this older lady. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. And I was like, can't believe she held on to my card. That did happen. And I remember being really irritated for me because I was so happy I was able to do this for her. But I was like, I just kind of wanted to get to where I was going. And so for years I worked on, boom, that door's closed. End of story. I'm not doing this, except for if I drink or I've got anesthesia. And that happened at my dentist appointment recently, because I can't control it. So I was like, listen, I might say some weird things. Yes. I was getting oral surgery and I knew it. I knew this might happen. And I said, listen, I'm just going to warn you, I'm a little different. And I might say some things that might be a little strange. And she's like, what do you mean? And then they already are putting the gas. So then here we go. Right. And I was like, well, I'm just like, I see spirit. And I just start telling her. She's like, oh my God. And people don't care. This has happened to me numerous times. I've been in the nurse's office. I was having a baby and the nurse is sitting there by my side. And I'm like, C-section, like what? And, people don't care. That's why I've had to learn to be like, boom, right? But I couldn't control it. So she's like, I really have this, I'm really worried about this person. I'm like, this is what's happening. This is what she said. And I just start telling her everything. We were alone. So she was just, you know, taking, sure, tell me, yeah. And then she was like, yeah, that's true, blah, blah, blah. Then the doctor came in, they knocked me out, and I woke up still, hey, what's up? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, yeah. And then I told her more. And then I saw her the next time, like completely fine. And she's like, it really helped me. And I'm like, yeah, I can't control it in environments like that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's amazing. And I know
Yeah.
in the same way too. It's I think you said that when we came to your how do you call it? Medium.
The medium gallery. It's just like a group,
Yeah.
group of people. Yeah.
You say that, you're not trying to prove anything to anyone. So, and I like that approach too, because you're not trying to convince anyone, what you
Right.
see, and that's it, that's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, they can take it or leave it. I tell people, like, I'm really fine with skeptics. I do feel people should be skeptical. They're usually skeptical of me. The true skeptics never come to me. Like hardcore people who are like, this is ridiculous, don't come to me. But people who are like, I don't know about you, but I am interested in this, do come to me. And I'll say, listen, if you're coming here to like, I'm way past like this. Like maybe when I first started, I was like, okay, I understand, and I wanted to be, I was excited. And I said, now listen, just take it or leave it. You can't care what people think about you. I learned the hard way. You can't worry about being liked, but you can ask to be respected. And that's all I ask people to do. Just be respectful. If you're not into it, fine. That's fine. I don't mind that, but you can't be disrespectful. I mean, people do anyway. I get told I'm going to go to hell all the time, but I mean, what are you going to do? So, but if someone's coming to me, I'll say, if you're trying to do it to try to prove me wrong, I'm just not interested in that. That's your journey. I can't convince you. I've done readings where I'm like given numerous details, and people are like, well, and I go, listen, you're just going to have to go on your journey, your own spiritual journey of what you believe. I'm not doing this to convert you. I do what I do. Like if you want to get your hair cut or something, and you can decide if you like it or not, or if you're into it or not. And you have to do that, otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy.
And
Sorry, I was gonna ask if do you have more people come to you to connect with loved ones that have passed, or do you have also people that come to you for clarity on their own path, on their own journey? Can you see those kind of things as well, like seeing a little bit of their life and where it's taking them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 50-50 actually.
Okay.
My intuitive readings I call them intuitive. Back in the day when I started this, psychic was a very bad term. People were picturing it had a bad connotation. And also I kind of felt like I couldn't describe it, but it came through me. And then visions came later, and hearing and seeing. So I use all the senses. I can hear, see, smell, and taste. And that happened over time. But when I do an intuitive reading, I can see people's future for sure. I can get times and dates. I look at it as possible paths. Every decision we're making is creating a domino effect of what direction. So I look and go, it looks like you're heading this way, and this is what I see. And someone may say, well, I don't want that way. I decided I want to do this. And I'm like, all right, I'll tell you the outcome. It's not like all hell breaks loose. It's just I'm trying to help you not go down these pitfalls and mountains. And I'm like, listen, if you just go left a little bit, it could be an easier road and you'll be fulfilled. Especially when I read young people like in their 20s, I'm like, listen, I want to save you like 10 years. So let me just take it from an older lady. Like I'm trying to save you these 10 years. And, I think it's amazing that more and more young people are very interested in this, because that wasn't the case when I started. And so I'm trying to guide their path, but I say, this is what I see. This is what I want to guide you with. But at the end of the day, and I can get timelines and I can get dates, and I can see, like if someone wants to buy a house, I can see the house and the neighborhood and all that. But sometimes, we're human and we just want what we want.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's great, but I'm going to marry him anyway, or whatever. I'm going to marry her anyway. People, I understand that. Or
Yeah.
I want to take this job anyway, because that's what I've always wanted to do. And so I just do tell people the outcomes of that. Okay, I understand. I'm just going to tell you the outcomes. Sometimes they come back and report, yeah, I kind of didn't listen to that. And now what do I do? And sometimes more lately, I would say people are very into this lately. This is definitely in the past 5 years, there's been an uptick of a different climate of how people are kind of interested in it and kind of don't resist it like they used to back in the day.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because there seemed to be also now the line is becoming blurry, but before it was really, you know, like almost the spiritual and the scientific on the end. And it's not, you know, now I think it's much more, you know, combined. And I mean, even,
cohesive. Yeah.
and I,
yeah.
and I remember reading a book by a psychic, I don't recall her name, but who was doing a lot of work with the police to help them solve cases, you know. And I think,
yeah, they have still, I think, like the
yeah,
CIA, well, they use remote viewers to look at.
Yeah, I do. I do remote viewing, and for a long time I was quiet about it. So people who don't know what remote viewing is, I'm fully awake and I use it every day in every reading. But I can look and I can see the person you're dating. I can see what they're like. I can see conversations you had. So there's past remote viewing, future remote viewing, and present. And I can go, and I used to do this for fun. People used to like me to do it. I don't do it so much anymore, but I have done it to like weird people I was dating or something. Like I could see their house and describe the room and walk around it and everything. People be surprised. Like in the past, I would say 5+ years, I read for psychologists, scientists, doctors, nurses, lawyers, people who are into quantum physics. You know, it is not what people think. They're all very powerful people that now I'm still kind of, they won't publicize it.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to the public and tell people. They may not even tell their colleagues, but there are more and more people, 100%, that are into science, medical science, the mind, the psychology of the mind. A lot of psychologists very interested in going, maybe there's something more to us than just what we thought. So yeah, absolutely. It's kind of when that first started happening, I was like, whoa, this was not happening before. So I do think that I believe in it that way. I do believe that it's just a science we don't quite understand yet.
Yeah, and I think it used to be that way probably centuries ago, where there was.
I agree.
Right? Yeah, and then it appeared all of a sudden, and because you know, I mean, you could talk about that for a long time, but I think, you know, it's the separation of, you know, religion and when religion is not necessarily, you know, a religion, right? It's more spirituality. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a way to control people, because if we have an inner understanding of ourselves and we kind of are asking these questions, you can't control people. If you're like, just listen to the person in the sky, and me, I'm the person that can talk to the person in the sky, you're fine. Like, don't worry about it, you know? And so it is, I feel like it did divide people. And I do feel like we're coming closer together again. We don't have to fight with each other.
Yeah. It's like when we were talking about the witches and, you know, I mean, it's the same thing. The king can't control. So, you know, what is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always about control.
Yeah.
Control
and power. Like you said, the ego.
It's I always say that money isn't the root of all evil. To me, it's ego.
Yeah.
It's for sure ego, because it just creeps up. It creeps up slowly. You watch it creep up, and it creeps up and it creeps up, and then the next thing you know, it's taken over.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We're gonna have to wrap this up, but before, maybe you have like a message that you want to transmit.
I guess my message would be, in the world we're in today, I know there's been so many people in my readings are feeling lost and feeling overwhelmed. And you're not alone if you're feeling that way. We've been through a lot in the past few years, and we're going through a change into a new world. And I feel like the new world just looks like we're done with this oppression of so many sorts, you know, that's done with not letting people think for themselves. And believe me, that realm is very much a part of changing this world. Like 15 years ago, I remember hearing a strong message that the shift was going to come and that the two worlds were going to collide and things were going to change drastically. And I feel like we're in it, but I understand it's painful for people what we're going through. There is like a lot of darkness feeling, and I know people feel it because I hear it every day and I feel it, and I have to push through that feeling, but not to forget that light isn't just like what people want to picture it as, like, oh, just light, you know, la la. It is a warrior energy, and it is an energy that goes to battle. And so don't give up on that, because we are shifting, and there is new generations coming in with a different idea of how this world's going to start to look like.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to put down there, you're going to send me all your info that you want to put in the videos, and you have a YouTube channel too.
Yeah.
Adela Lavine, right? Your YouTube
Yes, everyththing's Adela Lavine to make it easy. So my Instagram, my YouTube, it's all under the same name. And my book, Peering into the Narrow Room. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. It was awesome. Thank you.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.